You may very well be going through something painful. Maybe it's divorce, health issues, relationship breakdown. Maybe the children that you've raised in faith have walked away. I mean, we could just go on and on. I'm going to share an author with you now who has battled some of the most extreme issues and problems in life that we can face, and how she came through it by relying on her faith and through Christ. Her name's Claudia Beasley. She wrote, I Am Here, My Faith Journey as a Survivor. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad to be here because you know what? All of us are going through stuff. And to see a story so encouraging that's not full of fluff, it's not full of cliches, seeing you at rock bottom several times in your life and the faith that you pulled yourself up on is so inspiring. Would you just share the general message of your book as we start?
I'd love to. The general message that I wanted to get across to people by reading the book is to lean into the voice that's in your heart, because He does talk to you. The Lord does talk to you, and He is there for you in any situation that you find yourself in. I wanted it to be a book of hope, of being able to hear the word of the Lord in you, have power of prayer in your life, and it does impact those around you, your family members, and it's an incredible feeling to have that coverage of the balm of Jesus over your life.
I mean, before we really get into some of the details about some of the rock bottom points of your life, which we all have, I want to ask you, if someone is watching or listening right now and they're like, okay, you're saying to pray, you're saying to call out, you're saying to listen. I've already pushed that away. How do I take that first step to ask Christ back in this mess that maybe I've created or that I've, been handed?
I would say it's like an open door. He is always there, whether you realize it or not. There have been times in my life where I feel like I have put my relationship on the back burner, knowing He's there. He'll handle this. He'll take care of it in the right way. And then because of choices that we make, then we have consequences. But He is always there to pick up those pieces. You have to have that trust. If you have friends that can pray for you through that, that is an awesome place to begin. I know that my church family was very involved with my healing and recovery period from COVID. My children, my stepchildren, I don't even consider them stepchildren anymore. It has just brought us so together with that focus being on Him.
Claudia, you were talking about COVID. Lots of people got COVID. You had it very bad. You had a very bad situation. Would you share about that?
Yes. I was diagnosed on July 8th with a wonderful nasal COVID test. And
what year are we talking about?
July of 21. It was a year ago.
Okay.
This was July. And on the 10th, which was a Saturday, my daughter called because I wanted to let her know that I had COVID. And she was a nurse at that time in California. And she asked what my oxygen levels were right away. I said, I don't know.
Right.
So she insisted that I get one of those oximeter things you can put on your finger. So I did. And my oxygen level was hovering at the 88%. And you should normally be at 98 or above.
Yeah.
And so she said, you need to go to the hospital.
And what happened there?
So I went to the hospital. My husband also had COVID at the time, so he couldn't go in with me. I walked into the emergency room, and they did admit me on that Saturday the 10th. And I apparently was communicating by my phone and texting for several days. I don't remember any of that now. My husband received a phone call around 1 o'clock in the morning on July 15th, which was the day before our wedding anniversary. and they told him that I had been put on a ventilator because my oxygen had dropped so low, and they had life flighted me to another city, to a hospital that could accommodate my needs at that point. So I was on a ventilator for
Wow.
13 days. I had to make a decision by that 13th day how I was going to come off the ventilator for the 14th day.
Wow. And I know there's other trials we want to get to, but what was the end story of the COVID journey?
The end story was I decided to come off the ventilator with only supplemental oxygen, which is through a cannula. I was able to handle it. The doctor at the time did not think I would survive coming off the ventilator going this route. He said he'd only had one other patient survive without going on the trach and going with a ventilator. I felt very blessed. I felt the Lord's presence all the time. I was in the hospital from July 10th to August 14th.
Mm.
The hospital then transferred me to a long-term acute care facility in another town. And at that point, I was on 10 liters of oxygen a minute. And this was weaned down from like 30 liters of oxygen a minute.
Wow.
And in 3 weeks' time at the care facility, they got me down to 3.5 liters.
Huh.
And I was doing physical therapy because I had no leg strength because I hadn't walked or been out of bed since July 10th. So it was a matter of, regaining my walking skills, being able to feed myself because I didn't have the strength to do that before. And so then.
Well, Claudia, I mean, this was a life and death situation. I
Yeah.
mean, you've had some very extreme things happen in your life. I mean, talking about 3 divorces, 2 miscarriages,
Mm-hmm.
assault.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the story of how you carried yourself through COVID is how you got yourself through the divorces and all those other issues, just different scenarios, but you really relayed and relied on faith.
Yes, absolutely. I learned at a conference to the constant theme through that whole thing was to be weak in the Lord so that
Mm.
He can be your strength. He can be your protector. He can be your healer. And so I just started doing that, and He saw me through everything.
It's the opposite of what we do as humans. We wanna grab more control when we're afraid, especially. "All right, I
Correct.
got this. Don't worry about it. I can take care of myself."
Yes.
But you're saying there are things in life.
Absolutely, I couldn't.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But
Yeah.
there are things you say that there's things in life that we probably should be have fear of, but we don't have to live
Mhm.
a life of fear, and that's a
Right.
big difference.
Yes. Yes. Through the whole COVID thing, my husband and I had done our research on the vaccines and whether we should or we shouldn't, and all of those kinds of things. And we had made a decision not to do the vaccine. We were healthy, even though we were in that age group that could get it first. We just didn't feel comfortable. My daughter, being in the medical field, did not want to do the vaccines as herself either. She
Mm.
said it's just too fast. There's just still too many unknowns, not enough data has been collected on the things that
It's
can
a
happen
personal
after the
decision.
vaccine. Yeah, it was a
Absolutely.
personal decision. And so it's it, it's it's been a journey, but
Yeah.
you just have to know where you're going
Yeah. And
after this.
you've written this book as encouragement to others. You actually call it it's kind of like a book in the old hymn.
Yes, yes.
Talk about that for me.
Yeah, well, I kind of pulled the words from the hymn, and I'd like to read those if that's
Yeah,
okay.
please do.
Okay.
Yes.
It says, "There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged and think my work's in vain, but then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. Don't ever feel discouraged. For Jesus is your friend, and if you lack of knowledge, he'll never refuse to lend. If you cannot preach like Peter, if you cannot pray like Paul, you can tell the love of Jesus and say he died for all.
That is absolutely beautiful. Boy, if you are in need of encouragement, if you're feeling like you have no way to go even further down, I want you to consider buying this book. Claudia, I want you to share just briefly, what is life like now, a year later?
Oh my. I made the decision in July, the second week of July this year, that I was not going to use any oxygen at night. I had Christmas miracle last year.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have a need to have any supplemental oxygen at all during the day.
Wow.
I was able to get around, no tanks, no Inogen, no nothing. And my pulmonologist kept saying, well, I really think you need to sleep with it at night, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And just, I was like, it's been a year. I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
just one night didn't turn it on. And my husband goes, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's scared. But look at where you've come. You've come from you've come from the brink of death
Yeah,
to being sustainable and thriving, and
yeah,
now writing a book that you can
yeah,
encourage other people.
yeah.
We've got about 20 seconds. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just be weak in the Lord. He
Mm,
can do miraculous things for you. He truly, truly can.
be weak in the Lord. That is an amazing place to end. Claudia Beasley, thank you. I am here, my faith journey as a survivor. And we want to thank EC Publishing for making this interview possible. And Claudia, where is the book available?
You can receive it in ebook or paperback on Amazon.com.
Thank you, Claudia. Have a great day and keep healing.
Thank you.
Thank you.